So, in the current scene in the MENA region for the insurance sector, there is a stagnation of premiums and over-regulation, while a rapid escalation of costs. How do you think AI can help in relieving this situation, unlike traditionally used simulation and business intel extraction?
Okay, so we have to start by looking at what is the value that AI is going to add, number one. And that is going to be the values of efficiency, of depth into the data, of looking for specific outliers within the data set. Even though the practitioners don't look at that, like for instance, let's take insurance. For instance, we are talking about insurance today. They don't see that, but they will appreciate it because when they see
Hmm.
the outcome that they find from AI as opposed to the outcomes that they're used to, far from what they get, and only they can actually see that and appreciate that
Uh-huh.
it is a big difference. And I think
Okay.
also you ask a question, a very important one, which is the difference between the business intelligence. See, there's nothing wrong with business intelligence that is being used, and there's nothing wrong with even the I'm going to put it as it is, the overuse of Excel in doing all the simulations and whether
Sure.
it's in insurance or otherwise, actually.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with that, really. However, the biggest problem is that the limitation of the possibilities that can be done because of the grasp of the human, and plus some other points that probably we can speak about later. But main point here is that the depth and width of the data processing and data collection and reading is nowhere to be found as it is in AI and machine learning. And I have to say it's more towards machine learning here than otherwise.
All this, what we're talking about in the insurance sector, is this done using generative AI? Is it machine learning, or what is it?
Well, there is a lot of hype here about generative AI, and I don't want to say that generative AI is wrong, but I have to make the distinction here. Generative AI is really for extracting insights, and the insights even are specific to a level of the data. For instance, if you try to get insights from a very large data set, you will not get it because there's an extent to how much it can do. Now, itself, it has a tremendous power, generative AI, to get you very, very powerful sentences and insights, but the relevance is more important here, and the context and the single context is more important. Whereas with ML or machine learning, we're talking about, and that's exactly what is being used, should be used, and that's what we use for OrYx AI, is in ML, you are very discrete. You're talking about those specific elements, but more importantly, it applies to however big the data set is. That's a big, huge difference. So today, all the efforts that have started for using generative AI are very much actually specific to getting the, as they say, the last bit of butter from the insights that are
Hmm.
possible.
Okay.
But what
Okay.
about analytics? What about, there are like 3, 4 different steps for you. The first step is reading the data.
Sure.
Second step is if there's anything wrong with the data, you have to fix the data. Then after that, you have to actually modify and do some data engineering. All of that is not possible through generative AI. It is not possible. It is only possible to get. Now you can read, and I've seen many people who have showed videos and trials of trying to read data sets using generative AI, and I'll tell you what happens with them. They get some powerful 3, 4 insights overall, but they are nowhere to be put to practice. One, two, They're nowhere to be seen as far as variation. When you run your multivariate examination, you can't do that. There's no place for that. There's a static picture that you can get, even though it's generative AI. So the way to go, with all the hype of the generative AI, the way to go is with machine learning still. Obviously, a big part of generative AI is machine learning anyway, for most people that don't know that.
Sure.
But
Yep.
it is only, they call it deep learning, which is machine learning, but with deep neural networks being used. However, closing with this, it is important to use um, machine learning at, say, about the 90% level. So 90% of the job is being done by machine learning, and only 10% can be done and left for making assumptions and making or extracting final decision making insights by generative AI.
Again, and this is a question a lot of us are talking about. What's up with all the hype of generative AI?
I think it's, many people are just, they're mesmerized. That's the word I will use. They're mesmerized
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
the power of this machine that understands you. Okay, which is fine. If it's talking about something broad, it's fine. So as an individual, you can be mesmerized, but as a business manager, no. As a business
Hmm.
manager, you need to have a privacy of your data. You need to maintain also the intact different departments that have their own data and how
Sure.
to converge them all together. You need to maintain your cost structure. So why should you go
Right.
and spend so much money for generative AI when you actually don't need it? You
Sure.
really don't need it.
Right.
So is there a way even of extracting the same, if not even more, information without using generative AI? And the answer is yes. But as I said, and as you very well mentioned it, it's a hype. And unfortunately, when there's, like, if you have 10 people and 9 people are screaming all over, okay, whatever you say is nothing. No one can hear you until
Sure.
they actually become quiet. So as I said, I think in the last video we talked about, this shouting is going to go down very much fast, by the next month. Well, starting tomorrow, being September.
How does one know it's is AI running in the background? Yeah.
Very, very good question. Very good question. And in fact, anyone, any layman, any person, even actually a very well versed person within AI, if they see the end product, I mean, the output cannot actually explain what it is. But here's the biggest difference between your traditional BI and what you can extract through AI and ML. That is, number one, it's efficiency. And when we talk about efficiency, we're talking about, currently, people take people crunch in, especially for insurance, using Excel and sometimes even machine learning, by the way, but the old way of doing it, even though they call it new. So it takes anywhere between 3 to 5 weeks, um, and then again 5 to 7 people team, to actually come up with something that we can deploy
Okay.
and have them just have one, as you just saw on the video, just take one data set and just input it. And within less than 10 seconds, you have all the answers. That's how fast it is. So efficiency
Okay.
is a big deal. Again, you're talking about efficiency alone. Now, let's talk also about something else. The vast inclusion, number two, the vast inclusion of features. In the traditional way, you can only look at the things that are relevant, which you can identify at first level. But how many would you identify? I don't think you'll go beyond
Sure.
6, 7, 8, 9. Let's even go 12 features, not more than that. We
Sure.
talk about even if you have 100 features. So
Sure.
100 different, basically, data points, 100 different, what do you call them?
The the features,
No, variables.
variables.
100 different variables you can
Variables.
have, as opposed to right now, or let's call it conventionally, you're using no more than 10 to 12. And how can you do that if you do the same way you're doing now? You can't get the information. But using deep neural networks and AI and machine learning that we use
Sure.
is the only way to go. So that's the number two. Number three, you get accurate predictions. And when I say accurate, why is it more accurate than right now? Here's how. It's because you're including every variable that can be included. That's why it's accurate. Nothing is uncounted for. Everything is counted for. That is where the accuracy come in. Then also, a very important point is this: the unclassified behavioral analytics and intelligence that we do, which means really it's as if you take a data set and you remove the header, which is all the names of the fields, and you put numbers without the feature names. Can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine? That will give you a real plotting of how naturally it's going. And then from the natural behavior, you can come
Right.
up with all the segmentation. Then you have clear segments then of your policies, clear segments of your customers for those, the policy holders, clear segments of risk segregation between the segments, clear loss ratios. Everything is very clearly mentioned in segments as far as the behavior, the natural behavior is concerned. That's the biggest thing we have. And then we close it by saying that all of that is being done in exactly 10 seconds that you can't even see. You can just close your eyes and open again, and it's done for a full data set. Let's suppose you have a very large data set. So yes, it might take a little bit more time, say maybe 4 or 5 more seconds. What's 15 seconds? What's 10 or 15 seconds
What is the
as
difference?
opposed to 6 weeks, eight
Then,
weeks
sure.
time?
Okay.
And then here's the last thing, which is, can you imagine you being able, I'm not saying you should do that, but you're being able to come and re-strategize if there's any problem, or if something else, something very new came up and you have to do something about it. It will not take you much. You can just sit down, look at it, make a decision, and you can have your information at your fingertips.